Hey everyone, there's a new bill making its way through Congress that could be a huge deal for pretty much every homeowner in America. It's got a big name, the Don't Tax the American Dream Act. And in this quick explainer, we're going to break down exactly what it is and what it could mean for you.
All right, let me just ask you this straight up. What if you could sell your home, the place you've poured your life into for years, maybe even decades, and keep every single cent of the profit? I mean, no federal capital gains tax at all.
Yeah, sounds almost too good to be true, doesn't it? Well, that is the exact goal of this new bill, the Don't Tax the American Dream Act. And trust me, its proposal is just as big as its name.
Okay, but before we dive into the new stuff, we've got to take a step back. To really get what this bill is all about, we need to understand the old rule it's trying to get rid of. So let's talk about the problem here, which is a tax rule that's been around since all the way back in 1997.
So the big term here, you've probably heard it, is capital gains tax. It sounds kind of technical, but the idea is actually super simple. It's just a tax on the profit you make when you sell something for more than you paid for it. And for most of us, what's our biggest asset? Yep, our home.
Now, the good news is, the way things work right now, homeowners do get a pretty nice tax break. You don't get taxed on all your profit. But, and this is a really big but, there are some pretty firm limits. Here's how it is today. If you're single and selling your main home, you can make up to $250,000 in profit completely tax-free. You only start paying that capital gains tax on any profit over that amount. And if you're a married couple filing your taxes jointly, that number gets even better. It doubles. You can make up to a whopping $500,000 in profit tax-free. So that's the ceiling we're working with right now. Okay, and this right here is the heart of the issue, at least according to the folks who support this new bill. These numbers, the 250K and the 500K, they were set way back in 1997. Think about that. Home prices have, completely exploded since then, but these numbers, they've never been touched, not once. They haven't been adjusted for inflation, so they're exactly the same today as they were over 2 decades ago. All right, so that's the problem. And that brings us right back to the solution that's on the table, the Don't Tax the American Dream Act, which was introduced by Representative Craig Goldman. Now, the guy who sponsored the bill, Representative Goldman, put it this way. He said, repealing these taxes will unleash the housing market and help restore the American dream of homeownership. So you can see the idea here isn't just about a simple tax cut. It's much bigger. It's about trying to jumpstart the whole housing market. So you're probably wondering, how would this new system actually work? Well, it's actually incredibly simple. Under this new proposal, if you sell your main home and you've lived there for at least 2 years, you'd pay zero federal capital gains tax on your profit. That's it. No caps, no limits, period. So what are they trying to achieve with this? Well, the supporters of the bill lay out 4 main goals. First, boost the number of homes for sale. Second, ease the tax burden on homeowners. Third, make housing more affordable for everybody. And finally, just let people keep more of their own hard-earned money. Now, it's also really important to know that this bill didn't just pop up out of the blue. Nope. It's actually part of a much bigger conversation that's been gaining steam for a little while now, all centered around this one tax. So let's trace the path here. It all started back in '97, right, when the current tax caps were put into law. Then, crickets for a long time. But things started heating up in the summer of 2025. That's when Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene put a similar bill on the table. Not long after that, former President Trump came out in support of the general idea. And all that momentum basically led us to January 2026, when Representative Goldman introduced the specific act we're talking about today. All right, so we've covered the problem, and we've covered the proposed fix. Let's boil this whole thing down. What's the key takeaway? What could this actually mean for you as a homeowner? Look, the bottom line is pretty simple. Today's rule says you pay tax on profits over a certain limit, that 250K or 500K. The new proposal, it just gets rid of the tax on your main home completely. It's a huge shift from having a capped tax break to a total one. So what's the logic here? What's the thinking? Well, the central idea is that if you take away this tax, it'll get more people to sell their homes. We're talking especially about folks who've been in their houses for a long time and are sitting on a huge pile of equity. And the hope is that this one move would kick off a kind of chain reaction. Step 1, more homeowners decide to sell. Step 2, that increases the number of houses on the market. Step 3, with more houses available, the market cools down a bit, and maybe, just maybe, becomes more affordable for everybody. And that really brings us to the final multi-million-dollar question, doesn't it?
The supporters of this bill believe it could be a game changer. So, as this thing winds its way through Congress, the big question everyone is asking is this: is getting rid of this one single tax really the key to unlocking the entire American housing market?